filtering the signal from the noise, finding the next trading narrative. My name is Christopher Newhouse. I'm a DeFi analyst at Cumberland Labs. Cumberland Labs is a Web3 incubator and venture studio. So if you're a founder with ideas and need resources, whether that is capital, developer resources, legal help, anything of that nature, feel free to reach out to me. And we'll get started. I was actually here as a speaker last year, more so focused on a beginner panel, how to onboard onto Web3, so it was teaching people about wallets, MetaMask, things like that. This is probably a little bit more of an intermediate panel. We're going to be covering a bunch of the just data sources that I use to form investment theses. So right now, the market is, we're bull market. Bitcoin's above 60K. Ethereum is really performing. It's a very institutionally led narrative right now. But as we kind of start to see more of that shift towards Ethereum, maybe the ETH ETF in May, we might start to see a lot more trickle down into some of the layer ones and a variety of the altcoins and DeFi ecosystems. So I hope that this presentation gives you the opportunity to see some of the different DeFi native kind of data that I'm looking at before I form an investment thesis and buy it in my own PA. As a bit of a background, so I graduated Georgia Tech in 2022. I've been fully crypto native, so sorry if the slides are pretty rudimentary. I had no consulting, no investment banking, none of that experience. I've fully been crypto native. I started at Genesis, went to GSR. Now I'm currently here at Cumberland Labs. I was previously also a research partner at Deribit, so I was writing like options-focused market commentary. If you guys follow me at all on Twitter, crypto DeFi guy, I write a lot of market-focused commentary for institutions and retail traders as well. Sorry, let me mute Telegram. Forgot about that. Very crypto native, of course, and got to close the Discord as well. All right. Awesome, so getting back into it. So I entered crypto in 2017. First trade was Ripple during the ICO bubble. Made a decent bit of profit there. Kind of took a break from crypto until 2020. DeFi summer came, got super involved in ETH, super involved in the ecosystem. Realized I wanted to stay in crypto for the foreseeable future. Had a role at Genesis, and that was kind of my foray into the institutional side of digital assets. We're going to be looking at kind of like a data-driven approach to finding trades and forming a fundamental thesis. And then hopefully, like, the presentation is probably going to be pretty quick. And then hopefully, if people have questions from the audience, I'd love to answer them. So I've been in the space for 6 years now and 3 on the institutional side. So why am I presenting? We're kind of entering this new cycle here. New participants. It's a very institutionally driven market, I'd say. We all see the stuff on the inflows, coming up on Bloomberg, and everyone talking about ETF inflows. It's very much so Bitcoin dominated. I think a lot of that's going to trickle into ETH. I think it's not really a narrative, but it seems like something that's kind of just going to happen is people are starting to position themselves for ETH ETF, maybe coming in May. So that's definitely something to look at. But what I just described is very institutionally focused. There's still a lot of specific narratives going on in the background that might have massive upside, and being able to leverage data effectively is how I've kind of had the opportunity to catch some of these waves back in 2020, 2021, and then recently in 2023 as well with Solana. So like I said, potentially ETH ETF in May. We're going to maybe see that trickle down into altcoins. There's new interest in growing volumes in DeFi. We're seeing a lot of different DEXs across a variety of ecosystems really start to pick up TVL, really start to pick up volume, and you're starting to see like decentralized exchanges really get volume and get interest again. We're going to approach it from kind of like 3 waves. So we're going to talk about like how I think of the Bitcoin and ETH narrative. That's primarily going to be like derivatives data, options focused data, very institutionally focused, just to see where the flows are, where people are trading, and what they're speculating on. We're going to approach it from the altcoin side as well. So it's a lot of the altcoin data I use, whether that is on chain, whether that is like DeFi Llama, TVL tracking, things like that. And then also DeFi specific as well. So we'll talk about some of like the data sources I use from an API standpoint to monitor liquidity pools and things of that nature. So those are the 3 verticals we're kind of tackling this at. Data-driven approach, of course, is obviously going to be, you could just get long on any type of meme coins or any type of shit coins without doing any research, but obviously using a data-driven approach is probably going to do a little bit better. So I'd like to talk about the important data feeds that I look at. So for Bitcoin and ETH, I'm primarily focused on the derivatives markets. So that's funding rates on the perpetuals, that's open interest, that's shorts getting closed, options markets as well. So that's going to be options open interest across a variety of strikes. That's going to be dealer gamma positioning. That is going to be how the institutions are focusing on the options market. We'll talk a little bit about DeFi, so TVL and ecosystem activity. Those are probably two of the biggest metrics you can track on DeFi Llama. It's a screenshot of DeFi Llama. And then I'll cover like just a couple interesting chats from Telegram and some research sites as well. So first, I'd like to start off, and pretty much the way the slides are, these are all the data sources that I use personally. So I'm a big fan of Amber Data, Levitas, and Greeks Live for the options data. It's pretty high fidelity. And the cool thing about Amber Data, Levitas, and Greeks Live is they all have some of their own proprietary charts that they make that are different from others. So that's kind of how I like to look at the option space. I primarily use these three. Whenever you're looking at the option space, you're really trying to focus on institutional positioning. So how are the institutions positioned? It's really nice to understand volatility dynamics. So before I enter into a lot of positions, I like to see, hey, is implied volatility in the options market cheap? Is it rich? I like to take a look at term structure. So that's how I trade a lot of events. And then also just in general, like I was discussing with implied volatility, are options cheap or expensive? Other data I like to use these sources for to take a look at are primarily around like the expiries and the open interest. You usually see on CoinDesk, it's like, okay, we've got this expiry happening at the end of the month, $2.9 billion of Bitcoin options are expiring. Where do you think that's going to impact the market down the line? Is it going to impact the market? Usually I like to leverage both the derivatives data plus the perpetual futures funding data, and that's kind of how I think about the positions. Yep. So it's primarily going to be a directional focus, but like I said, these are all options data providers that give a lot of insight into the volatility surface of Bitcoin and ETH. Perpetuals. So these are Coinalyze and CoinGlass. Coinalyze is actually like my favorite. I'm not paid to shill them or anything, but you can literally put a lot of the perpetual datas on a trading view looking chart. So one of the biggest things I use Coinalyze for is a variety of things. You can take a look at funding rate. You can take a look at predicted funding rate. You can take a look at open interest. So one of the things I like to use in terms of like a confluence of data here is whether or not shorts or longs are being liquidated. So if the price is heading up and we see a massive move higher and a lot of open interest just decreased, I feel like shorts got closed there and they got blown out and pushed the price higher. So using these kind of data sources on the perpetuals markets, first it helps me understand leverage, it helps me understand market positioning, and then it helps me understand like, is this a derivatives-led rally right now, or is there a lot of spot organic demand? And given the ETF, it is really important to see like, hey, is this a perpetual rally based off the back of derivatives markets, or is it a spot driven? And as we've all seen from like this massive recent run up from 53K to 64K, and then you saw the 64K down to 61 within 5 minutes, a bunch of people got liquidated. That's the kind of thing that I like to use Coinalyze to look at. CoinGlass, I use that just to track liquidations. It's got very nice charts. All these are free actually as well. And then yeah, the way that I like to leverage this data is to think about liquidation cascades, delta neutral funding trades, and then how are the alts performing versus the majors. So if you use Coinalyze, it actually has like the funding rates for any listed perp on the altcoins markets. But recently, Bitcoin and ETH have been dominant, so I've been focused on Bitcoin and ETH. Now we'll kind of look at some of the DeFi and on-chain data. So everyone's probably heard of DeFi Llama if you're trading on DeFi. It's like a very, very easy way to track TVL of ecosystems, see what's hot, see what's not, and then also track specific verticals within these ecosystems. So using DeFi Llama, one of the biggest trades I had this year was on Solana, and it was really interesting to see a lot of the DeFi activity start to flow from Ethereum over to Solana, and then start to also see like how the individual protocols were accumulating volume after a lot of the different Solana airdrops. So I feel like, Q4, Q3 of 2023, one of the bigger trades was Solana, and one of the things I was doing was just constantly being on DeFi Llama, looking at the TVL and the DeFi ecosystems, looking at how much volume is going through their DEXs, looking at how many developers are starting to build on Solana or continuing to build, and I get a lot of that from DeFi Llama. So a lot of the stuff I was talking about here, what ecosystems are thriving, what's growing, what protocols. So on DeFi Llama, you can get like protocol specific, and that's what protocols might have user growth and volume. A lot of the stuff in DeFi is competing with each other. So being able to look and see who's actually winning whenever there's 5 DEXs is very important, especially for like token airdrops in the future, or just investing in those verticals. I also use a lot of on-chain data from Glassnode and Dune Analytics. So that's like specifically on-chain and kind of just looking at active wallet addresses, seeing like how much of a coin someone holds. If are there 1,000 users with 1 coin each, or is it 1 user with 1,000 coins? So that's something I like to take note of because the activity can be very different across a variety of those different users. Another thing I like to use as well is Expand. It's API access, so I use this for a lot of DeFi liquidity pool forensics. And that's just very interesting to me from a historical analysis standpoint to say like, hey, this might be a dead narrative. I'm looking at liquidity pools a year or two ago, and they're kind of flat, kind of trending downwards, and now they're starting to get active again. Whales are starting to get active in these ecosystems, providing liquidity to these pools again. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. So a lot of this stuff about crypto and about data is just really, like I said in the PowerPoint, is filtering signal from noise. There's a lot of data, and it just really focuses on what is important, and that's what I'm hoping to highlight here with this presentation. So yeah, this is my DeFi and on-chain data that I look at. DeFi Llama is a massive one. And then here's some telegrams. So I don't have the links to these, and these are just the images. But crypto fundraising, maybe you could type that into Telegram and it'll pop up. There's like 25,000 people there. But basically that's, easy access to a lot of the early stage deals going on in crypto. They post them pretty quickly. They've already happened, but it's good to see who's investing in a lot of these different narratives. Different VCs have different focuses in terms of verticals. It's really interesting to see like, hey, I'm on crypto fundraising. The past 10 deals over the past 2 months have been Web3 and gaming. Maybe that's a hot narrative. And then Paradigm Edge. So that's a specifically focused institutional options chat. And what that has, it's got like 1,600 users in there if you can find it. Maybe you need the link and I don't have it. But if you see on Paradigm Edge, like it shows like top flows for institutions. It shows what is going on in the options markets. It shows you the biggest prints of the day. So if the market is rallying massively and someone came in and yesterday they bought, a massive amount of calls, they're probably in profit, and that's something to stay cognizant about because eventually they're going to have to exit that position and exit that position. And then Infinity Hedge. This is just one that like I've been using recently, and it's very similar to Tier 10K on Twitter. They come out super quick with crypto native news. So yeah, these are 3 of the telegrams that are like pinned to the top of my Telegram. I'm sure everyone in here has Telegram. It's a crypto conference. And then there's also the news and media company-specific channels. So, companies have their own specific channels for market commentary. CoinDesk, Blockworks, a variety of different research and media companies also have their own kind of research Telegram chats. And yeah. Cool. So I've got 7 minutes, which is a decent bit of time. If anyone has any questions about how I use any of this data, how I have used any of this data, how I've traded, I think you can raise your hand and someone will walk around with a microphone if anyone has questions. And then if not, feel free to reach me on the side. But I'd be happy to talk about any of this. And then also Cumberland Labs being an early stage incubator. If anyone's a founder here looking for resources and haven't raised yet, we'd be happy to talk to you as well about incubation. And if nobody, yep.
Hey, Chris. Just curious how you prioritize which data sets to pick and where you spend your time on any of them.
Sorry, what was the last part? Data sets to pick and
like how you prioritize spending your time on which ones.
Got it. Yeah, so for me, I also just have like a personal vested research interest. So I have like a predetermined set of narratives I'm looking at, and then I usually just pick data to analyze those specific narratives. So if I have a view that, hey, maybe DEXs are hot right now, maybe liquidity is coming there, maybe there's a lot of volume, I already have like these predetermined layer ones that I'm just personally interested in, and I kind of look at DeFi Llama and some of the data and historical analysis there to just analyze the growth or whatever vertical I'm looking at. If the hypothesis is, hey, DEXs are getting more volume, DEXs are getting more users, maybe I look at some of the on-chain data for the addresses of active users on that protocol. Maybe I like to see, okay, like I was talking about in terms of 1,000 addresses with 1 Solana versus 1 address with 1,000 Solana. It's a very different narrative. But in terms of choosing the data, I already have kind of like predetermined layer ones that I'm interested in, and then it's more so about looking at specific ecosystem verticals.
I came in a bit late, but if we want to follow you specifically, do you post any particular place consistently?
Yes, so I'm on Twitter. It's @CryptoDeFiGuy, very basic crypto name. And I usually post like options commentary. I've posted stuff on ETF. on the ETFs. I've been on the bylines for Bloomberg, CoinDesk, Yahoo Finance for market color and market commentary. So anytime there's a big move, I usually post something on Twitter about why I think that happened, and usually that leverages charts from some of these data sources. That way you can actually see, and I also explain why that happened. So whenever I was talking about Coinalyze for liquidations and open interest, I usually highlight and point that out just for new people who are kind of coming in and seeing a new data source. And then also shout out, so I've actually never used these other two data sources, but this is why it's good to connect with other research analysts and just talk about different data and have a presentation like this to see all the different data sources. Velo data is another good one that I've been seeing pop up. And then Artemis is another one that was recommended to me by a research analyst. So I've never used those, but I wrote them down because you can never get enough data in crypto. If no one else has any questions, you can talk to me on the side as well. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.